Since starting these wrestling bios videos, one of the most requested wrestlers to have their own video is Raven, and for good reason too. Raven was, and still is, a very smart man. His character within ECW was a product of the times, and the gimmick got over huge in the land of Extreme. From ECW, Raven was able to get a big contract in Ted Turner's WCW, and afterwards Raven was able to go back to the WWF after previously leaving the company before his rise to superstardom. So in this first of a two-part series, we will look at the career of Raven. Part 1 here will look at Raven's journey to ECW along with his time within the organisation. Scott Levy was born on September 8th, 1964 in Philadelphia. He graduated from Lake Worth Community High School in 1982 and then went on to earn a degree in criminal justice at the University of Delaware. While at the university, Raven took a semester off to join the Marine Corps. Raven said that he only joined the Marines to see how tough it was, and he left because he didn't really have a desire to become an officer. After college though, Raven voluntarily served out his commitment in the National Reserves for 6 years. Raven said that he got his criminal justice degree as he had dreams of one day joining the CIA or the FBI. Raven became a fan of professional wrestling, attending live shows in both New York and Florida. He decided to train to become a professional wrestler under Larry Sharpe at the world famous Monster Factory in New Jersey. Initially, Raven wanted to get trained by the great Boris Malenko, but he was unable to get a contact within the Malenko school. His debut match came on February 20th, 1988 in a match against Jimmy Jack Funk. Raven would then reach out to as many smaller promotions as he could, and he did get a considerable amount of work and the road miles that came along with it. From Puerto Rico to Tennessee, Hawaii, Vancouver, Portland and Dallas, Raven worked where he could to get better at his craft and also to gain an understanding of wrestling that went way beyond the standard. In Tennessee's Continental Wrestling Association, he worked as Scottie the Body. Before signing his first big contract with WCW in '92, Raven worked in the Global Wrestling Federation as Scott Anthony, where he would join the Cartel stable that also included Cactus Jack and Rip Rogers. While working in the GWF, Raven also worked on the side as a male stripper to help pay bills. Diamond Dallas Page bugged Dusty Rhodes to give Scott a job in WCW, and so Scottie Flamingo was born. Raven has said that he worked a dark match for his debut and he annoyed the crowd so much that he actually got himself over. Dusty told Raven that he was going to make him a star, but then Bill Watts took over the book and that dream totally died. Since then, to put it mildly, Raven has never been a big fan of Bill Watts. The Scottie Flamingo gimmick was that of a stereotypical surfer from Florida. Eventually, he would win the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship from Flying Brian Pillman at Beach Blast in 1992. He only held the belt for a few weeks though, eventually dropping it to Brad Armstrong. Scottie Flamingo joined the Diamond Mine stable, joining forces with Diamond Dallas Page and Vinny Vegas. You can learn more about the Diamond Mine stable in my DDP video. Flamingo mainly continued to feud with Brian Pillman and Brad Armstrong, but his most memorable match in WCW during this stint occurred at Clash of the Champions 21 in November of 1992. In this match, Scott was booked to work against Johnny B. Bad in a boxing match. Scottie won the match via knockout after some questionable tactics involving Vinny Vegas and a weighted boxing glove. Memorable doesn't mean good, but yeah, this was about the height of Raven's career during his first stint with WCW. Just 3 months after the match at Clash of the Champions, Scott left WCW. He has since said that arguments and disagreements with Bill Watts led to this decision. Raven briefly went back to Memphis before getting a call from the WWE, who wanted him to come into the company as a manager. He misinterpreted this at first as a wrestler who manages and agreed to join the WWF under his own assumptions that he will also be able to wrestle matches. And thus Johnny Polo was born, a rich and spoiled kid who first managed Atom Bomb and then the Quebecers. He did indeed work a few matches, but these were mainly tag team and 6-man tag matches. not at all what Raven had envisioned for himself. Scott was given an opportunity to do some colour commentary beside Vince McMahon. Scott had, to this point, already gathered a deep understanding of professional wrestling. Along with this, Scott done his homework and was more than prepared for sitting beside Vince McMahon at the commentary table. Vince McMahon was so impressed by the work Scott put in that he offered Scott a job as an associate producer for Monday Night Raw. Scott also hosted Primetime Wrestling alongside Gorilla Monsoon, and to this day, Scott still says he loved working these shows with Gorilla. So Scott took the associate producer job, but found the work to be mundane and boring. He had a desk set up in Connecticut right beside Bruce Pritchard, and his main job was to write the Monday Night Raw recap shows along with some other B shows, which he said took him all of 5 minutes to do. With a ton of free time in the WWE offices, Raven passed in the time by watching classic matches from the WWE's expansive library, which he said was the best part of the job. There's been a few reasons as to why Raven gave up his $100,000 per annum job in the WWE. The first was he was dating a lot of girls who worked in the WWE offices, and this didn't sit well with the higher-ups in Stamford. The other, more glamorous and well-known reason was because he had heat with Vince McMahon because Raven would take Shane McMahon out partying until the early hours of the morning. Raven and Shane were good friends, but Vince wasn't very happy with Johnny Polo being a bad influence on his son. All of these mounting frustrations between relationships, heat with Vince, and lack of job satisfaction led Scott to leaving the WWF in late 1994. Out of work and needing to pay the bills, Raven tried to get with Mexican promotion AAA, but he didn't get the job. He still believes to this day that Conan is the reason why he didn't get hired by AAA. Apparently Conan talked bad about Raven to AAA higher-ups, and thus Raven was not hired by the organisation. He would go on to meet up with DDP, and the meeting would change the direction Scott was going in forever. DDP advised Scott to get rid of the chicken shit heel character he had been playing with Scottie Flamingo and Johnny Polo. DDP rightfully advised Scott that wrestling was going in a different direction, and if he wanted to get booked, he should look tough. DDP had also just seen the movie Point Break, and was inspired by Patrick Swayze's character in the movie. Scott said this of the meeting: "I was talking to DDP one day. I was saying I was having trouble getting booked anywhere. Paige goes, 'It's because you're a chicken shit heel.' He said, 'You should be more of a badass.' I didn't want to be a badass because everyone wants to be a tough guy. He said I should do something alternative, so I created the Raven character. It annoys me when Paige says he created it, which is ridiculous because I had to create the character, the promos, the concept." After pitching the Raven character to Jim Cornette and getting turned down, Scott would eventually get in touch with Paul Heyman. Scott's plan was to come into ECW for a few months, work with Tommy Dreamer as agreed with Heyman, then leave again for the WWF. But Scott would end up loving ECW so much that he stayed around for 2.5 years. Heyman initially thought that Raven was going to be Scottie the Body in flannel, but he quickly got the real nature of the character. In late '94, Stevie Richards had developed an identity crisis, performing under the ring names Stevie Flamingo, Stevie the Body and Stevie Polo, all of these being references to former ring names used by Scott Levy. Stevie Richards was feuding with Tommy Dreamer at the time, and after losing to Dreamer, Richards became irate and claimed he would present the real Johnny Polo. Raven would go on to make his first ECW appearance on the January 10th, 95 episode of ECW Hardcore TV, with Richards revealing that Raven had personal issues with Tommy Dreamer. Before further details of Raven's issues with Dreamer came to light, Scott formed the Raven's Nest stable, initially featuring Johnny Hotbody and Tony Stetson. These two would go on to get fired from the stable just a few months later, and they were replaced by the Pitbulls at the April 8th, 1995 three-way dance event. On the same show, Raven revealed that he and Tommy Dreamer went to summer camp together, and Raven became the boyfriend of an overweight girl named Beulah McGillicuddy. a girl who Tommy Dreamer rejected back in the summer camp. Beulah was now a penthouse model. Stevie Richards had revealed he had tracked her down. Raven then defeated Tommy Dreamer in their first singles match after interference from Beulah and Stevie Richards. The feud escalated when Raven's Nest delivered a beatdown to Tommy's friend Luna Vachon and also broke several of Tommy's fingers. Raven would find tag team gold when he and Stevie Richards defeated the Public Enemy for the titles in mid-1995. Soon afterwards, the Pitbulls were replaced by the Dudley Boys in Raven's Nest. It was also around this time when the infamous chair shot heard around the world occurred. At Heatwave in 1995, Dreamer handcuffed Raven to a steel cage and delivered a ferocious chair shot to Raven's skull. There was no defending from this chair shot, no putting the hands up in defence. It was hard and it was loud. Remember also, this was in 1995. Stuff like this didn't happen often on TV as frequently as it would in 1997 and beyond. On September 16th, 95 at Gangsta's Paradise, Raven and Richards lost the ECW World Tag Championships to the Pitbulls following interference from Tommy Dreamer. Raven and Richards regained the titles from the Pitbulls a month later, only to lose them to the Public Enemy later the same evening. The Dreamer vs Raven feud would come to an end, at least for now, near the end of 1995 and at the beginning of 96. Raven further explained his grudge against Dreamer, accusing Dreamer of not being there for support when Raven's parents got divorced, an accusation that Dreamer denied. After this, Beulah announced that she was pregnant. Beulah announced neither Raven nor Stevie Richards was the father, and instead the father was Tommy Dreamer. The crowd popped huge for this announcement as Tommy hit the ring and beat down Raven, Richards, and new member to the Nest, the Blue Meanie, before embracing Beulah in the ring. In late January 96, Raven captured the ECW Championship after defeating the Sandman. The months that followed saw Raven defend the gold against the likes of Shane Douglas, Too Cold Scorpio and Terry Gordy. Raven would then go on to play with Sandman's emotions when he brainwashed Sandman's ex-wife and his son Tyler to join Raven's Nest. This led to a severely controversial segment airing at the High Incident event in October of 96. In the segment, Raven crucified Sandman by tying him to a cross and placing a crown made of barbed wire on his head. The segment led to Kurt Angle ending his newfound relationship with ECW as he stormed out of the arena, and Raven was also instructed by Paul Heyman to apologise for the segment later that night. The segment was seen, even for ECW standards, to have been in poor taste. Raven would go on to win a barbed wire match against Sandman at Holiday Hell in December 7th, 96, but cracks started to form in his relationship with Stevie Richards. In a rematch with Sandman, Richards turned on Raven, which led to the Blue Meanie and Supernova breaking away from the Nest. The trio would go on to form the Blue World Order. Raven would go on to have more successful ECW title defences against Steve Williams, Rob Van Dam, Supernova, Stevie Richards and others. His reign ended at the first ever ECW pay-per-view Barely Legal in 97, when he was defeated by hardcore legend Terry Funk. With only 2 months remaining before Raven would return to WCW, Raven partook in an angle featuring Stevie Richards, which saw the tag team reform but then break up once again. Raven was then booked into a loser leaves ECW match with his main rival within the company, Tommy Dreamer, at WrestlePalooza 97. During the match, Raven was unsuccessful at winning back his childhood sweetheart Beulah, and Dreamer went on to pin Raven for the very first time since their feud started. Raven would then leave ECW to join WCW, but this wasn't the last time Raven stepped foot in an ECW ring. In the next video, we will look at Raven's return to WCW and also his return to the WWE.